If you want to grab our men's lifestyle supplement and male advantage ebook, all links are in the bio. He's got more thickness, more fullness to his overall size and his overall face. Everything comes together and he looks fantastic. And that's what a lot of it is for men. It's just growing into those features. Like, he just looks so awkward here. He does look like somebody who's just rented a tux or rented a suit. You know what I mean? Just this is his first big night out and he's kind of like the cheesy one-liner guy at college. Like, that's what it looks like. He was 25 here. 25 years old. You know, most guys think they're in their prime. This isn't your prime. This isn't your goddamn prime. Look at it. Just awkward, and like the face is just, you're just holding water, just too much body fat. Like, we haven't figured shit out yet. Like, male skin is just puffy at this point. Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be doing something brand new where we're going to be looking at the male advantage journey. I figured it's okay for me to tell you guys that it's going to happen and kind of lay it out in a graph or just speak about it on camera, but I think is much more beneficial. Well, not much more beneficial, but I think it would be beneficial if I could show you another side of this, which would be real life examples of men who have gone from probably, to be honest, average or below, and then gone up to like a 10. Like I've told you guys before, any man can go from a 1 to a 10. It's extremely possible, and I want to show you some examples of that. Now, the first one that we're starting with in this hopefully very, very long series, hopefully I can do tons of these, is Michael B. Jordan, which I think all of you will, you know, acknowledge that this guy has gone through a gigantic transformation. Now, I remember Michael B. Jordan. I didn't watch The Wire or anything like that, or Friday Night Lights, but the first time I kind of realized that the guy existed was when he was in the film Chronicle and That Awkward Moment. And in both of those films, he was kind of like a sidekick. Like, he was the third main guy in both of those films, and he had two other actors kind of leading the way, and he was just kind of like a sidekick, like a stand-in, and he was just any kind of normal average guy. Now, to see him evolve and go through to where he is now, and see that he is, you know, in Black Panther, he's probably going to be in Black Panther 2, but that's what the rumors are saying. Apparently he didn't die at the end, spoiler, sorry. And, you know, obviously he was in Creed, he was in Creed 2, and then you think there's going to be a Creed 3 coming up, and you think, how has this guy gone from being the kind of third wheel in these films, like couldn't be the standalone leading guy, to actually being one of the leading guys in Hollywood and recently voted the sexiest man alive? Now, that's one hell of a transformation. So we're going to go through that today. Now, the first thing that I want to show you guys is that, or the first thing I want to talk about, is that he started acting when he was 12 years old after 18 months of zero callbacks. Okay, so it didn't start early. He had no reason to really continue. He could have said at 12, you know, this isn't for me, I'm not good enough, I don't really like what's going on here. But he stuck at it, okay? And the fact that he started at 12 will come into play later. So just keep that in mind. Now, in 2002, and this is one thing we're going to do, we're talking about years and ages, because I think ages are so important to the male advantage, so you guys can see when a man actually comes into his own and what happens with women at the same kind of time frame, and how the kind of age gap works, so that you can see it in reality. You know, this isn't like a film or me theorizing. It's actually happening in real life to real people. So in 2002, when he was 15, he was on The Wire, okay? So this is where his career really started. And as we can see in a lot of the images, you know, he's just any kind of normal kid. Nothing really too impressive. I mean, you know, is he a handsome young man? Yeah, maybe you could say that, you know, if you were like a grandma or something. But I don't think anybody would say that's going to be the future best looking man in the world, you know, sexiest man alive, that kind of thing. So I think, you know, that gives everybody kind of hope at the starting point that he is. You know, it just looks like any old typical kid. But, you know, and this is the picture I want to show everybody as well. I mean, look at this picture here, okay? He hasn't actually got the best facial genetics as such. Like Michael B. Jordan's chin is non-existent, to be honest. Like it's not even really there. Like it's very strange. And his jawline, although it's improved, it's not fantastic. It almost looks like he's had fillers, because he actually has two jawlines on the right. He has his normal one, which is going around at the top, and then he kind of has this very, very weak submental muscles underneath his chin, and obviously the lack of chin bone, which if it was where it's supposed to be, then the chin should be level with the tip of the nose. That's basically how the perfect face is aligned. And his chin is way back on that. You know, it's like probably 2 inches back, which is incredible to think about that, especially when he was a kid. But he's definitely done something. I don't know what it is, whether it's filler. I don't know whether he's done some exercises to bring that forward. But the guy doesn't have a chin and he has 2 jawlines. Like, it's insane, to be honest, to think that this guy is now the sexiest man alive. But I think it gives everybody hope. I think it gives every guy hope, because he's clearly not perfect here. You know, you look at him side on and you think there's no way girls find him attractive, but they do. And a big part of that is the body transformation and the wealth he's managed to build up, etc. And he has got, you know, really nice features in all other areas, but that kind of chin and, you know, neck area, just, I mean, I don't think anybody's seeking after that. I think if he was to do submental exercises and neck workouts, etc., he'd look so much better. But, you know, we can see he's not starting from the best point. Now, we fast forward to him being 23 years old, and this is when he was in Friday Night Lights, which is another thing that I haven't watched, but we can see a clear difference here, okay? Like, this is clearly the same guy, okay, but the facial shape is completely different. Like, there's a lot that's changed there. The face is just thicker and wider. Obviously, there's a few gym routines that have been thrown in there, but again, on the left, like, handsome guy, yeah, perhaps, but you wouldn't think he was going to evolve into the guy on the right. Like, it's just a complete improvement. Like, how many kids on the left look like that? When I could walk through London and find probably 200 young boys that look exactly like that. And here's another picture here. Again, the guy on the left, you'd say, well, fairly handsome guy, you know, some nice features, but I never would have thought he'd turn into the sexiest man alive, you know. He looks just like, again, like any typical teenager, and this is when he was in Friday Night Lights. He was 23 here. It's a completely different guy. Completely different guy. In terms of the maturity. And this is what happens to guys just over a period of time. We just go from this awkward kind of like poorly dressed. It's got some acne, slightly, I guess, up here. Skin isn't immaculate. It just looks like a little boy, you know, awkward teenager kind of face. It's not distinguished yet. He's not grown into his features, to something like this on the right, where everything's just thicker and fuller and everything just comes together properly. It looks more defined. The body fat is lower. Everything just looks a little bit more chiseled and finished, just like a finished product, okay? Like, you can see the brow here, the way this pops outwards. It's similar here, but it's got a bit more padding on it. It's not quite the same. This brow bone is flatter and wider. Like, everything just comes together, okay? Now, 2012, so 10 years after he started, he finally landed his first, what I would coin, major role, which was Chronicle, which is the first time I ever saw him, which was 3 young lads with superpowers, basically. And the 2 white guys in that, naturally, with it being Hollywood, were leading the way. You know, they had the leading roles, as we can see here. Here they are. You look at Michael B. Jordan compared to the guy on the right, who was the main actor in this. I think it was the guy in the middle, but the guy on the right was the popular kid. And you can see why, okay? The kid on the right really is like chiseled features, typical handsome young white guy. You can see why Hollywood really pushed him forward. You look at Michael B. Jordan, you think, yeah, he's not on the same level of this guy on the right. Like, he's still quite skinny, still slightly awkward looking. The face isn't as full as the guy on the right. You know, he's not as distinguished yet. He's still growing into his features. He still looks like a child. Like, he could pass for 21 years old on the left. And he was actually 25, you know. And this is what happens with a lot of guys. It takes a long time to grow into our features. It's very, very difficult. But this was his first main role. He was obviously the 3rd main character. But, you know, he was coming up in the world, which is fantastic. And if we just look at this picture here, we can see, look how awkward he looks. okay? That's any young kids walking around in the UK or America with just awkward features. You know, he's not grown into his features yet. Like he's got big lips, like a wide smile, a big nose, but his face hasn't grown into those features yet, if that makes sense. They almost look too big for his face, whereas in the future pictures, with his head is bigger, his jawline's wider, he's got more thickness, more fullness to his overall size and his overall face. Everything comes together and he looks fantastic, and that's what a lot of it is for men, is just growing into those features. Like, he just looks so awkward here. He does look like somebody who's just rented a tux or rented a suit, you know what I mean? Just this is his first big night out and he's kind of like the cheesy one-liner guy at college. Like, that's what it looks like. He was 25 here. 25 years old, you know, most guys think they're in their prime. This isn't your prime. This isn't your goddamn prime. Look at it. Just awkward, and like the face is just, you're just holding water, just too much body fat. Like, we haven't figured shit out yet. Like, male skin is just puffy at this point, but we're skinny. Like, it just makes us look like childlike. Or, of course, we're not going to get taken seriously by women or Hollywood or other men. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just so silly that people think that. Now, we move on to 2014, was his next big role, which was That Awkward Moment. He was 27 here, okay? And we can see here, he's getting a little bit bigger. We're starting to see probably the first signs of Michael B. Jordan here, where, you know, everything's starting to slightly come together. Now, he's still got this chin and double jawline thing, needs to strengthen the submental zone. I think that lets him down quite a lot, but, you know, now people don't really care too much because he's more holistic. But you can see he's got a decent frame, but it's very thin. It just looks, like I said, he's coming into his own a little bit more here because he's 27. As I told you guys before, it's the first year of it's the first year where the tables slightly turn, where women start realizing, oh, okay, men are taking over now. And you can see the first signs of that. He looks a lot better. He's growing into his features. He's aging pretty well, but he's nowhere near Zac Efron level. You know, Zac Efron on the right here just looks so much better. He's more defined. You can see why he was the leading character in this and Michael B. Jordan was the stand-in. But Michael's definitely got signs here that his frame's going to be better. Okay, so we've actually got a picture here of the shape that he was in during that film. And you can see not a bad frame. You know, his features are coming in a little bit more. He's got the facial hair now. It looks a little bit older, a bit more defined. The haircut's better. You know, but it's still transition. He's going from a boy to a man, but it's still a transition stage. So his body fat there, because he's so skinny, I'd say it's 16%. You know, it makes him look a little bit puffy. His muscle size isn't, you know, too great. If you take away all that body fat, he's very, very skinny there. I would say with his height, maybe, what is he, about 5'10", probably, if he's not that much taller than Zac Efron. Maybe 5'11". I'm not sure how tall he is, but I would say he's probably about 80 kg here, just because of the excess body fat. Would shock me if he was any heavier or lighter. So, you know, average guy. That's what he is there. He's just an average guy, but he's gone from awkward to a little bit more defiant. So we're seeing the first signs here of something happening. This is from the same time frame as well. This is after they finish shooting. Looks about 16-17% body fat there. You know, face is looking good. You see massive potential here. If I saw this guy on the street, or if he contacted me from 1STMAN, I would say, look, cut that body fat down to like 12%, 11%, whatever, and then start bulking. Like, go on a giant bulk and get massive, and then cut it again, and, you know, go through a few transitions, and, you know, real handsome guy, you're going to have everything you need. Do some submental exercises, orthotropics, you know, bring that body fat down at the end, and this chin area is going to look even better. Now, we go to, that was 2014, now we move into 2015, where he got the Fantastic Four role, and he was 28. So the age I am now, the age where I said to you guys in previous videos, I'm really starting to notice women that were previously out of my league contacting me for the first time, and they're saying, okay, like, here's the transition is beginning, this guy's going places, I want to grab onto this and see where it goes. So he was 28 and he's starting to take shape here, as we can see. You know, I know he's got the superhero suit on, and he has actually shaved the facial hair. I think it's to suit the role. But you can see here, he's really becoming a man now. He's obviously started lifting weights for this role. That's obviously what he did, you know. So this is the first time he got some beginner gains. I don't know if he took it too seriously, because he's not going to have his top off. but he had the suit on. He's probably got in the gym for the first time. I'd say this is the best he's ever looked. I'd say his face looks more defined. He looks a little bit older. The body's packed out a little bit more. I'd say we're seeing the first signs here of the male advantage. That's what I would say. And I just want to show you this picture as well, guys. I think this is around roughly the same time. Look at the negative body language. You know, he doesn't look like a leading man. He doesn't look too fierce like he does now, where he's super confident. He's just got his hands clasped, everything down the middle, you know, blocking his penis, which is a sign of kind of shyness. And it just looks like, again, he looks above average, but it's kind of just above average any normal guy on the street. Real handsome guy. Obviously, he's got this double jawline thing going on, which is very weird, and no chin. But a handsome guy in terms of probably like lips upwards. But you can see like his shoulders tucked in. Like the frame's not there yet. He's still a boy transitioning into a man. Now here's where it gets interesting, okay? Because I think at this point, you know, didn't have a big net worth, you know, wasn't that famous, people were thinking his career was going to end, is actually this scene from The Breakfast Club.
Man, it's good to see you bounce back after Fantastic Four, man.
I appreciate it, man.
I thought it was going to be over after that.
This one? Nah, it was going to be over.
That bad?
It was pretty bad.
Really?
Yeah.
It didn't turn out the way we wanted to.
Why was it so bad?
It just didn't turn out the way it was supposed to, man. It was one of those things where, like, you know, everybody would put their best foot forward, but sometimes, you know, it's just out of your control.
And there's this picture that I saved from Ryan Reynolds. And Ryan Reynolds was talking about how he feared that Fantastic Four would be kind of a massive failure for Michael B. Jordan, and it's going to hit him hardest because he's a black actor, basically, and Hollywood just don't give you as many chances. And a lot of people were fearing for his career here, and that's why, like I said to you guys before, 27, 28, it is really a crossroads, a tipping point. You just don't know where you're going to go. Not everybody's an actor, but if you can kind of navigate through this time, it just seems like any guys who get through this period and, you know, just stick in those trenches and really push through, something comes of it. I just think by 27, you've got a decent level of maturity. You know what you want out of life. And if you do really dedicate, I just think that's why when you get to like 30, that 2-3 year periods, you've been putting the work in up to that point, and then I think you just really finish it off and you make things happen. It's a weird period, but everybody was obviously fearing for him, thinking that his career was over. But here's the transition. This is where he gets into his male advantage years, and he got taken more seriously. I think what happened here is he became more mature post Fantastic Four, and then he said Fast and Furious 4. And I think he grew up and became more focused, and just, it was a crossroads. Like, it was the stick and twist thing that I spoke to you guys about before. Like, what are you going to do? You know, you've got maybe a net worth of about $2 million at this point. Are you going to, you know, you're probably getting some decent looking women because you're famous. Like, are you going to cash out on that and just settle where you're at and say, well, it's good enough? Or are you going to double down, triple down and say, no, I want more, I'm going to push this to the sky and make the most of the male advantage? And that's what Michael did, so fair play to him. He really pushed it. And this, for me, is the first time he really took a body transformation seriously and got complete beginner gains, where he did gain like 10 kilograms extra. And we can see that here in a lot of these pictures. So I think he went from about 16% body fat to about 11% body fat, and added, probably looking at these pictures, maybe 6 kilograms of lean muscle. So I think probably when he bulked it was like 10, and then by the time he cut it was probably like 6. But it makes a major difference, and this was for Creed 1. Okay, and in the first, as we can see here, in this first Creed film, he's pretty ripped. He's not massive, but he's pretty ripped, okay? He gets bigger later on, but this was definitely a natural body transformation. Like, he's not too much bigger than he was, but he's bigger and he's got lower body fat. So collectively, he's obviously going to look massively different. And his face this is the first time we see his face become completely defined. And he really comes into his own at this point. You know, we start thinking, okay, this is the male advantage. Something's happening here. And at this point, he was 28 or 29 years old. It was in 2015. And you got to think, right, guys, that was 16 years of work. That was 16 years of work from when he began to the first Creed film. And, you know, like I said, it wasn't the biggest body transformation in the world. It just looks as though he went on, you got to think about that as well, guys. From Fantastic Four, he was 28, and then in Creed 28, 29. So during that time period, it was probably just like 8 months of just solid work, like a 4-month bulk and a 4-month cut or something like that. And because it's the first time he ever did it, it's beginner gains, okay? So he's going to look absolutely fantastic. And of course, like I said, he does look bigger. He was starting at 15, 16% body fat. He managed to get bigger and then cut down to 11. So if you're around about 11% body fat, I think. So if you're 4-5% body fat lower, but you've also gained muscle and you've retained a lot of that, well, then you're going to look fantastic. Because you were starting at a high body fat percentage. Now, if he had started at about 11% body fat and just got a lot bigger and then was able to cut from about 16 down to 11 again, he would have looked significantly bigger. And that's why it's great if you are a low body fat percentage. If you start bulking, then you're gonna obviously get more gains during the time periods whilst still being ripped, if that makes sense. So by the time you get to around about 16% body fat, you don't want to get too much higher than that because estrogen starts building. But by the time you get to that, you've gained a decent amount of muscle. You start cutting, you're still ripped, so you can look good the majority of the time. And that's what he's done. I think, that fair play to him. And if he had stopped there, he would have had a completely different life. But luckily for Michael, he managed to land in 2017, 2018, he managed to land the role for Killmonger in Black Panther. And he got Creed 2, all in the same year. So he was 31 to 32 years old during this period. And his net worth was, I think, 8 million after Creed. So it was 8 million after Creed and then 25 million after those films. So we can see when he got to 31, 32, inside the male advantage, his life just changed completely. Everything just turned around. And I think a big part of that is how I promoted you guys before, that you need to go through a big bulk at some point to transition from a boy to a man. And that's definitely what he did. And you can see here that his body fat percentage is definitely higher than when he was in the first Creed film, but he just looks more like a man. Like, this is the first signs we're seeing of the real Michael B. Jordan that we know and love now. And I remember seeing him as Killmonger and thinking, damn, that's a different guy. Like, he really has taken on a man's frame. Like, this is, I need to go and bulk. Like, it was really inspirational. This guy's looking huge. And he was probably about, if he hasn't got abs, he's probably, with the size that he is, he probably went up to about, with the size he is, maybe went back up to about 16% body fat, to be honest. I think when he's got no abs, 15, 16% body fat, where he is so big, he's getting away with it. So I think, like 16% body fat here, but he's massive, okay? So like this is his bulk phase. This is when he's gone from a boy to a man. It looks fantastic. And like I said, before this, he had an 8 million net worth, took that up to 25 mil after these films. Like, that's an absolute game changer. And the salaries in these were, Creed 1 was 1.3 mil. That took him up to 8 million. Really put him on the map. That was his change in, that was the kind of I'm here moment. So 16 years of work, he got to 28, 29. This is the male advantage period where the tables first start to turn, and as a man you start to notice, okay, my time's coming now. It's time to really double down and put this work in. The results are coming. He got paid 1.3 mil, and then Creed 2, 3.5 mil, Black Panther, 4.5 mil, so a total of 9.3 million over 2/3 years. But I think one thing that's important to note here is that Creed 1 was in 2015, and then Black Panther and Creed 2 was 2017, 2018. So, and I'm sure he did things in between, but these are his most notable moments. Well, I think we can figure here, guys, that, Creed 1 probably started filming before, and same with the other films, whatever. But if we're just going to use that, it's still going to be like a 2-year gap. Well, he's taken like a 2-year gap to really become the man that he is now. Like I said, he did other films, whatever. But in order to get in shape for Black Panther and Creed 2, this guy went through this giant bulk. Like, he went away for kind of like 2 years, had this massive success, probably did a bit of a tour, made a lot of money off the back of Creed 1, got the fame, 16 years of hard work, he's there. And instead of resting on his laurels, he went, okay, I got in good shape for Creed 1. Now let's bulk like fuck. Let's build that boy to man frame that I always speak about. And 28, 29 is a good year to do it, because building muscle at that point is easy for a man. It's effortless. You really will pack on a man's frame at that point, because bone mass and muscle mass peak at 30. So your body wants to get bigger at this point. It just wants to grow. And he's gone for it. You can see, like, he looks significantly bigger. Obviously the body fat's a bit higher, as we said, but he just looks fantastic. I mean, we can see that he's still fairly lean. I think that's a flattering angle. But I mean, this is what I want to look at. Look at his face. Look how different that face is from what we've been used to. He's got the facial hair, etc. But the face in general is bigger. It's like I showed you guys from when I did my bulk. Like how my face went from like a little boy to being thicker, more solid, and just more solid set. But the other thing he's got here is a lot more body fat in the face. He's holding a little bit of water. But he's getting away with it because it's improved his looks due to the size and the extra structure he's gained. But yeah, once he loses this body fat, this is when he becomes the sexiest man alive. But this bulk has changed his life. And that's why I keep telling you guys, bulk in your 20s. You just have to bulk 1 or 2 times in your 20s and go from a boy to a man. It will absolutely change your life. And that's what Michael's done here. And I believe it's the big reason why his net worth 3x'd in the period of 2-3 years. Because he took had success off a body transformation, but then took some time out to really go for it and build the man that we see today. And that's why he's got the fame, and, he's the Hollywood leading man now. And I think, fair play to him. That's fantastic. And that was about 2018 when all of this ended, and he got that fame. And straight away we can see he started dating Victoria's Secret model, Cindy Brunner, I think her name is. Obviously a gorgeous woman here. It's the type of woman that, at the time I think she was 24 and he was 32. And it's the type of woman that most men would dream of being with. Victoria's Secret model is kind of top of the top, and he's only got that woman from going through the transformation. And women like this, let's say she's 24, she doesn't want to be with a 24-year-old man because they're not at the level she needs them to be at. Like, most guys would last 30 seconds with this woman, but a 32-year-old established successful man who's just been in 2 big films, has built up a man's frame, and actually looks like a man. That's who a woman like this is going to be with. I'm telling you, the most beautiful women in the world don't go for young men. They just don't. Like, the hotter the woman, usually the closer to a 10-year gap that you'll see. Like Catherine Zeta-Jones, she went off with Michael Douglas. And not the biggest guy in the world. I know it doesn't follow true to my rule, but the gym wasn't really popular back then. But he was older, he was more established, he was more mature. It just suits what these women are going for. Okay, he's got a success that is on par with her beauty. And that's what he's done here. He landed a Victoria's Secret model. Like, that wouldn't have happened if he didn't go through that body transformation, because he wouldn't have got those 2 roles. Or they wouldn't have been as successful as they were. He probably wouldn't have got the first Creed role had he not done the body transformation, had he not done the 16 years of work. And it's all culminated in him being in his male advantage's peak at 32, and she's in her peak at 24, and the two just tied together perfectly. And that's what I'm telling you guys time and time again. Now, at this point, now that he's bulked, I think he's probably put on about 12 kilograms of muscle here. The body fat, like I said, is about the same level. But then for Creed 2, we can see that he cuts for the probably... I don't know if he'll ever go through it again, but let's compare these 2 pictures, okay? So look at this. This is the biggest difference between size that he's ever had. So the skinniest normal frame on the left, the big bulky boy to man. This is perfect image of a boy to a man. But then he does this. Okay, so he stays roughly the same size. Obviously lost a little bit of muscle. It's natural, that's what you're going to do. But he cut down to around about, I would say, due to his size, 14% body fat, 13%. Which isn't bad at all. And this is when he became the sexiest man alive. This is kind of the position that he got to when all the girls were just going crazy over this. Massive success in this film because of the body transformation. Everybody started talking about him and saying, God, he looks great. Obviously, he's probably oiled up a little bit here. He's probably dehydrated. He's probably just done a workout and got a massive pump on. And you've got lights coming down looking at him. Like, this perfect scenario. But he still looks fantastic. Like, his face looks more solid. There's more structure. Like, he's still got the chin and jaw thing going on that he has on the left. But because the face is just bigger, everything comes together. It's like I naturally have big ears. But when I bulked up, like, they look small. Like, people are like, oh, you don't have big ears. Like, men's features just grow into themselves when we bulk. Like, everything just comes together. And he's got some decent size and definition here, and this only comes from bulking and then cutting, bulking and then cutting. You can do a clean bulk or whatever. I just quite like what I mean is you can do a steady clean bulk with a small calorie surplus, but I just think sometimes, like Michael did, go for it, put yourself around about 16% body fat, and then cut down, retain as much muscle as possible, down to about 10-11% if possible. I think, like I said, he's about 13 here. Yeah, probably 13% body fat there, which is really good. But that's what you need to do. You need to build that man frame. You need to go from a boy to a man. And then, like I said, bulk and then cut, bulk and then cut. In your 20s, you need to do 2 or 3 of these so that when you get to your 20s, you do look like the guy on the right, not the guy on the left, really still trying to figure life out and not knowing why things aren't coming together. Now, we have a scenario where Michael in the current day is 34 years old. He's dating a beautiful 24-year-old, Laurie Harvey, which... yeah, there's some shit about her. She seems like she's sleeping around quite a lot. To be honest, here's a note for you guys as well. She's currently dating Michael B. Jordan, who's 34 years old. She's dated Trey Songz, who's 36, and Future, who's 37. I mean, she's 24 herself. Like, she's in her prime, one of the most beautiful women in the world right now. And she's dated 3 guys that are within a small range of the male advantage peak. As I told you guys before, 34 to 37. Well, I've obviously said different ages. I've said like 34 to about 38 is like peak, or 39. That's like when a guy is at his ultimate peak. But that's what I'm telling you guys. It's like she's one of the most sought after women in the world. She's being... like in a Meek Mill song where he's like, Laurie Harvey's on my wish list. There's so many guys that have sung about her in songs. Like, I've heard about 10 different songs with her name in. And everybody's chasing after her. She's 24. She's like in her prime. One of the most beautiful women in the world. And, he's 34. Future's 37. And as I said, Trey Songz 36. And she's been with all of them. And it's what I'm saying. Like, there's no point a woman like this being with a 24-year-old guy. It doesn't work. They're not at the level that she's at. Like, the equal value exchange isn't there. One thing I want to show you guys as well is his fashion. Like, in every single picture now, in every single kind of image that you see of Michael B. Jordan, he's really cleaned himself up. This is something, to be fair, that every guy needs to learn from, but especially guys from ethnic backgrounds. Like I've told you guys this before, is that I think a lot of guys from ethnic backgrounds, it doesn't matter what you wear, it's up to you, but a lot of guys from ethnic backgrounds tend to wear stuff like hoodies and whatever, and they have more of a streetwear fashion sense. It's cool, wear whatever you want, but you will not be taken seriously until you kind of reach this level. As we can see again, look at the difference in fashion. You just got to become the man. Like, who is it? The Samuel guy. I can't remember his name now. I did a video on him the other day, but I couldn't post it. I will try and get it out soon, but I couldn't post it because you have to ask him first for permission to use his content. I saw something on his website. But the black guy that does the dating advice, but he's always talking about fashion. Dan Pena's always talking about fashion and how you won't get taken seriously unless you dress well as a man. You see here, yeah, he's wearing nice clothes, but without the body, it doesn't really come together. It doesn't look too good. It just looks like 3 guys just hanging out at school or something, dressing up for prom. Like, if you build that body and you dress well, it all comes together as a man. Obviously, money, is a big part of that as well. But I think this is really, really key here. This is one of his castmates from Friday Night Lights, apparently. Both of these guys look like grown men now. They both look fantastic. Now, Michael looks better, but both of these guys have really come into their own. They look like men. I think they're in their peak right here. Whereas you look at the women from the same show, I'd say the one on the left looks okay, but I would say all 4 probably have looked better in the past. Look at you just think about the difference between the 2 men and the 4 women. Like, the men are really coming into their own, and these women who were hired because they were hot for the show to begin with, just not really holding up as well as the men, and they're probably all roughly the same age. So it really shows the male advantage coming into play there. And that's how you do it, though, guys. That's how you do it. You just work on yourself relentlessly. You just get in the gym, you bulk, you cut, you bulk, you cut, you build your money up, you stick in there, you stay patient as a man because you know your time is coming. You get to 28 and things haven't gone well. Well, guess what? That's what Michael B. Jordan did. His career was nearly over. Yeah, he had money and whatever, but his career was nearly over. Everyone was saying that was the end. He stuck it out. He, got in the gym further, like built himself up to be a Hollywood leading man, landed the 3 biggest roles of his life, 3x'd his net worth within 2 years, and just absolutely changed the game for himself. And now he's dating a beautiful 24-year-old woman. He's dating Victoria's Secret models. Net worth of 25 mil, probably Creed 3 coming up and Black Panther 2. I'd be shocked if he didn't get 5 to 10 million for these two. Shocked, 5 million minimum. So he's going to like double his net worth again. This guy's going to be worth like 50 million in the perfect shape at like 35, 36 years old at his exact peak and male advantage with a beautiful woman on his arm, who everybody in the world, everybody at least in the rap game is trying to chase after. Like, he's built a very good life considering where he's come from. Like I showed you those pictures earlier. Like, it's just shocking to think that that little boy has become the sexiest man alive as he got voted this year. Like, that's insane. And I heard rumors as well that he's been lined up for the Superman movie. A new Superman movie. They want to put Michael B. Jordan in as Superman, which, this is what's going to happen now. Once you build up that frame, you become a serious actor. You become a leading man that an entire franchise can be built off the back of. It's obviously in your own life, you're not all going to be actors, whatever, but this, once you build up that frame, at your 9-to-5 job, your boss will probably promote you. More women will be interested in you. You'll be taken more seriously. You'll have a more chiseled face. You'll have a better structure to yourself. You actually look like a man instead of a boy that isn't taken seriously. It opens up doors. And this is why men don't peak until they get to around about, our lives don't start until like 28, 30. They don't even get going. Like, I'm 28 at the moment. I feel like this is the first year of my life where things have actually started. It's insane. Before that, you're just suffering and just trying to get to the point you want to get to and figuring out what you want to do with your life. It's absolutely mental. But the final thing I want to show you guys is, I was just clicking through and I just saw this picture on the right and I just thought this was really interesting. Okay, so we've got Logan Paul on the left, Michael B. Jordan on the right. Now, both are dressed in hoodies, okay? So they're not dressed too smart. There's not really a difference between what they're wearing. Obviously both have got headphones on as well. Well, this was Logan challenging him to a fight after Creed. So that's quite recent. I think Michael must have been like 33. Logan was like 24, 25. But look at the difference, guys. Logan on the left, okay, just a boyish face. Like, he's been through a body transformation too, but because he's so young, it just hasn't really taken effect yet. I can imagine Logan at like 30 years old really sticking to this boxing and really getting in great shape and just being so defined, and being like 2 times, 3 times more handsome than he is now and really being taken seriously and maybe going into movies and doing it properly. I can see his career really changing, going from like a funny guy kind of Will Smith type to then like transitioning and actually like doing what Will Smith has done and getting taken seriously in proper films. Something like that will happen for his career. It's just when you're young, you just don't look too good. Like, you can see it's boyish, it's puffy. Like, he just it's a weird face. It just looks childish, and you can't take the face on the left seriously. Whereas you look at Michael B. Jordan on the right, it's more defined. It looks like a real man, and he's not even in his prime there. Like, that isn't the Michael B. Jordan we see now, but he just looks so much better. There's a huge difference between just ages for men, and as long as you stay on top of your fitness and your money and whatever, it all comes together. And Michael B. Jordan is a prime example of that, dating some of the most beautiful women in the world, having what a lot of guys would define as the perfect body, dressing like a professional man now, being more mature, because over time you will just become more mature. You will just be able to handle scenarios better, you'll just handle stress better. You won't be silly, you won't make stupid mistakes, and all of it comes together at the perfect time. And like, money goes up, body goes up, women start looking at you. Like, you get that 10-year gap where you're 34 years old and a 24-year-old really wants to be with you, and she's in her prime, you're in your prime, and it just all comes together. But that's the male advantage, guys. That's Michael B. Jordan's journey. Hopefully you've all learned something from this. Hopefully it's inspired a lot of people too. And, hopefully it's made a lot of people realize that this is true. This is something that does happen to men. As long as you put the work in, the benefits that you will receive are through the roof. If you want to grab our men's lifestyle supplement and male advantage ebook, all links are in the bio.